The sun was just beginning to rise over the wide, empty plains of the southwest, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. The land stretched endlessly, dotted with rugged rocks and sparse desert shrubs. Birds called in the distance, and the wind whispered across the dry grass. Out in this vast wilderness, danger could appear at any moment, yet life continued with a strange calm. It was here that a cowboy rode alone, his horse moving steadily across the rough ground. He was a man of quiet strength, not someone to boast or seek attention. His eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon, always alert for signs of trouble. The cowboy had been traveling for days, helping people in towns and out in the wild, where law and safety were fragile. He carried with him a simple pack, a lasso, and a deep sense of responsibility. Life on the plains was unforgiving, but he had learned to move with it, understanding its dangers and its small, rare moments of beauty. On this particular morning, he noticed something unusual. A figure moved quickly near the edge of a canyon. At first, it seemed like another traveler, but the movement was frantic, hurried, and full of fear. As he drew closer, the cowboy realized it was a young Apache woman. She had long, dark hair, flowing and untamed, and her clothes were simple yet practical, suited for moving quickly through the harsh land. Her face was striking, not just because of her beauty, but because of her expression. Eyes wide with fear, lips pressed tight, as if holding back panic. She was running from something, though it was not immediately clear what. The cowboy slowed his horse and studied the situation. He noticed footprints in the dust, the tracks of more than one person. Danger was close, and he could sense it in the air. Without hesitation, he spurred his horse forward, moving with careful speed toward the woman. He called out to her, his voice calm but firm. "Hey, over here. Don't run into trouble." She glanced back, startled by his sudden presence. Her eyes flickered with a mix of relief and suspicion. She didn't know this man, yet somehow, instinct told her that he could help. Before she could respond, a shout echoed from behind the rocks. A small group of men was chasing her. Their intentions clear, they wanted to capture her. The cowboy felt a surge of urgency. He acted quickly, using the skills he had honed over many years. He positioned his horse between her and the danger, shouting and swinging his lasso in a wide arc. The men hesitated, startled by his sudden appearance and the ease with which he controlled the situation. The cowboy's voice rang out, commanding and steady. "Leave her alone. Get back, or you'll regret it." It was enough to buy a few precious moments. The woman took advantage of the pause and ran toward him, her trust growing with every step. When she reached the cowboy, he guided her behind a large rock formation, keeping both of them hidden from view. They crouched low, catching their breath, while the sound of angry voices faded as the men moved on. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the wind and the pounding of their hearts. The cowboy looked at her carefully. She was shaken, but alive. That was what mattered most. "You're safe now," he said gently. "They won't find you here." She nodded, still catching her breath. Her eyes met his, and there was a silent acknowledgement, a connection forming between two people from very different worlds. She was cautious, but gratitude shone through her fear. After a moment, she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Will you take me with you if I do what you ask?" The cowboy paused, understanding the weight of her words. It was not just a question of safety, it was a question of trust, of freedom, and of choice. He could see that she had been through much, that her life had been filled with uncertainty and danger. She was offering him a chance to guide her, yet making it clear that she would not be easily commanded. "I can help you," he said slowly, "but you need to be ready to follow my lead. You'll have to trust me, and I'll trust you in return." She nodded again, and though there was still a flicker of doubt in her eyes, a sense of hope had appeared. They mounted his horse carefully, and he guided her away from the area, keeping to the shadows and using the terrain to their advantage. The plains stretched out before them, wide and empty, yet every step was cautious. He knew the dangers were not over, and she understood that her safety depended on him, at least for the moment. As they traveled, the cowboy noticed more about her. She was not just frightened, she was strong, resourceful, and aware of the world around her. Her movements were quick and precise, as if she had learned to survive by relying on her instincts and intelligence. The way she held herself showed pride, and he respected that. She was not someone to simply rescue and command. She was someone who had her own life, her own rules, and her own courage. They found a small, hidden area near a stream where they could rest. The water was clear and cold, and the sound of it running over rocks was soothing after the tension of the morning. The cowboy dismounted and offered her water. "You're brave," he said finally, breaking the silence. "Not many would face what you just did, and keep moving forward." She looked at him, a faint smile appearing despite the fear still lingering in her eyes. "I have to survive," she replied simply. "I have no other choice." Her words were honest and bare, carrying the weight of someone who had faced hardship and danger from a young age. The cowboy nodded, understanding more than she could know. He had seen too much of the world to be surprised by courage like hers, yet it was still remarkable. In that quiet moment, a bond formed between them built on mutual respect, shared danger, and an unspoken understanding of what it meant to survive in a world that could be both beautiful and cruel. As the day went on, they moved cautiously through the plains, avoiding open areas and keeping an eye out for anyone who might follow. The cowboy shared small bits of guidance, how to read the land, how to notice subtle signs of danger, and how to move quietly and carefully. She listened intently, asking questions and demonstrating a quick understanding. It was clear that she was not just a passive follower but a partner in their journey. Someone whose knowledge and skills complemented his own. By the time the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting long shadows across the desert, they had traveled far. They found a sheltered canyon to rest for the night, safe from view and hidden from any prying eyes. As they settled down, the woman looked at the cowboy again, her eyes reflecting a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and something deeper, curiosity and trust, beginning to grow. "You've helped me today," she said softly. I don't know what to say." He smiled faintly, not needing words to express the understanding between them. Sometimes actions spoke louder than words, and today, both had shown courage and care. As the stars appeared overhead, twinkling in the clear night sky, they sat quietly, listening to the wind and the distant calls of nocturnal animals. The cowboy thought about the journey ahead and the challenges that would surely come. He knew that protecting her would not be easy, but he also knew that this was a moment of change for both of them. For her, it was a chance to step into a world of possibility, guided by someone she could begin to trust. For him, it was a reminder of why he traveled the plains to help, to protect, and to connect with others in a world that often demanded solitude and survival. In that quiet night, a promise hung between them, unspoken, but powerful. The cowboy had saved her, yes. But in doing so, they had both gained something more, a connection that neither could have anticipated. And as they drifted into a cautious sleep, each thinking about the days ahead, there was a shared understanding. The journey was just beginning, and together, they might find strength, courage, and perhaps even a measure of freedom neither had known before. The next morning, the cowboy and the Apache woman woke to the soft light of dawn filtering into the small canyon where they had rested. The air was cool, crisp, and filled with the gentle sounds of the plains, birds calling, the distant rustle of leaves, and the soft murmur of a hidden stream nearby. Both of them felt the weight of the previous day's events. Yet, there was a quiet sense of determination. They had survived, and they were together, facing the vast land ahead with cautious optimism. The cowboy took the lead, guiding the woman through narrow paths and over rocky terrain. He moved steadily, keeping his senses sharp for any signs of danger. She followed closely, her steps careful but confident, showing that she was learning quickly. Along the way, she began to ask questions about his life, curious about this man who had risked everything to save her. He spoke modestly, telling her stories of his travels, the towns he had helped, and the people he had met. He did not boast, but there was a quiet pride in his voice, a reflection of a life lived with purpose. As they walked, the woman shared parts of her own story, revealing experiences that had shaped her into the strong, independent person she had become. She spoke of the challenges she had faced living in a world torn between settlers and her own people. Her words were simple but filled with meaning, painting a picture of resilience, courage, and wisdom that could only come from surviving hardship. The cowboy listened carefully, understanding more with each word. It was clear that she was not someone to be underestimated. Their journey was not easy. The plains offered few places to hide, and the sun beat down mercilessly during the day. They had to find water sources, safe spots to rest, and ways to avoid areas where danger might lurk. Despite the challenges, there was a rhythm to their travel. The cowboy taught her how to read the land, the way the grass bent in the wind, the tracks of animals, and the signs of rain or storms approaching. In return, she shared her knowledge of plants, natural remedies, and ways to move quietly and efficiently through the terrain. It became clear that together, they were stronger than alone. One afternoon, as they rested under the shade of a lone tree, the woman turned to the cowboy with a thoughtful expression. "You have helped me, more than I could have imagined," she said. "But tell me, why do you do this? Why risk yourself for strangers?" The cowboy paused, considering his words carefully. "Because I believe everyone deserves a chance," he replied. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone, and I want to help when I can. Life is hard, but it can be better when we look out for each other." She nodded slowly, absorbing the meaning behind his words. Their journey continued through valleys, across rivers, and over hills that seemed endless in the bright sun. They faced challenges that tested their patience and endurance. One day, a sudden storm struck, sending wind and rain whipping across the open land. They found shelter under a rock overhang. But the storm was fierce, and the sound of rain hitting the stone echoed like drums. They huddled together for warmth, sharing stories to distract themselves from the fear of the elements. In that small, dark space, trust grew stronger. Each realized that survival was not just about skill, but also about relying on one another. As the storm passed, the air smelled fresh, and the plains seemed renewed. They emerged from their shelter to find the land sparkling with droplets of rain on the grass and rocks. The woman smiled, a rare, bright expression that made the cowboy feel a deep sense of satisfaction. They had endured the storm together, and it had brought them closer. Days passed, and their bond deepened. They began to anticipate each other's movements, understanding habits and reactions without words. The woman proved herself resourceful, often finding ways to make their travel easier or safer. The cowboy admired her intelligence and quick thinking, realizing that she was not only brave, but also wise. Together, they moved with purpose, navigating the land with increasing confidence. During one evening, as they camped near a small creek, the woman looked at the cowboy with a serious expression. "I have always lived by my own rules," she said softly. "But now, I feel that I can follow yours, at least in part. I trust you." The cowboy felt a surge of warmth at her words. It was not just trust, it was respect, acknowledgement of their partnership, and a willingness to embrace the journey ahead. Their travel was not without encounters with others. They occasionally saw signs of settlers, other travelers, and even wild animals. Each time, the cowboy taught the woman how to remain calm, observe quietly, and move safely, without drawing attention. She learned quickly, becoming adept at blending into the landscape and using her instincts to guide them. He saw her grow more confident with every passing day, and it gave him hope for what lay ahead. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat together on a small rise overlooking the plains. The woman spoke quietly, almost to herself. "I never thought I could feel safe. Not fully, but with you, I feel it, even for a moment." The cowboy listened, touched by her honesty. "Safety is never guaranteed," he replied gently. "But together, we can make it more likely. And sometimes, feeling safe is enough to give us strength to move forward." As night fell, they set up a small camp, and the woman helped prepare a modest meal. They ate in companionable silence, sharing the simple pleasure of food and warmth after a long day. The sky above was filled with stars, more than either of them had ever seen in one place. The vastness of the universe reminded them of how small they were. Yet it also inspired a sense of connection to the land, to each other, and to the lives they were building together. In the quiet of the night, the woman spoke again, her voice soft but confident. "I never imagined I could trust anyone like this," she said. "But I do. I trust you." The cowboy felt a deep sense of responsibility, knowing that her trust was not given lightly. He also felt gratitude for the connection, for the journey, and for the chance to witness her strength and resilience firsthand. Over the next few days, they continued to travel, facing both challenges and moments of beauty. They crossed rivers glistening in the sunlight, walked through fields where wildflowers grew in small clusters, and climbed hills that offered breathtaking views of the plains, stretching endlessly. Each experience brought them closer, not just as protector and protected, but as companions learning from one another, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments of reflection. Eventually, they reached a small settlement at the edge of the plains. It was a modest town, with a few wooden buildings, a general store, and a handful of families. The cowboy guided the woman carefully, ensuring that they remained safe and that she felt comfortable in this new environment. The townspeople were curious, but kind, welcoming the pair without judgment. It was a reminder that the world could hold both danger and kindness, often in equal measure. As they settled near the town, the woman reflected on her journey. She had come from a life filled with uncertainty, fear, and survival. Yet she had learned trust, partnership, and the possibility of hope. The cowboy had shown her that courage was not just about facing danger, but also about opening one's heart, sharing strength, and walking together toward a better future. The cowboy, too, reflected on their journey. He had rescued her, yes, but he had also gained something invaluable: a companion, a friend, and a reminder of why he traveled the plains. Life could be lonely, harsh, and unforgiving. But moments like this, moments of connection, trust, and shared courage, made every challenge worthwhile. In the quiet evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in gentle colors, they sat together outside the small cabin where they were staying. The woman turned to him, a faint smile on her lips. "I came here not knowing what to expect," she said. "But now, I know that I can face whatever comes, with you by my side." The cowboy nodded, understanding fully. Their journey was far from over, yet they had found something enduring: mutual respect, trust, and the courage to face whatever the world had in store. The night settled around them, calm and peaceful. Stars twinkled above, and the wind carried the gentle sounds of the plains. They sat together, side by side, knowing that they had survived, grown, and learned from one another. And though the future remained uncertain, one thing was clear: they would face it together, with courage, trust, and the bond they had built across the endless, beautiful land of the plains.